"Why is my mother's photo in your mansion?" asked the black girl, and the billionaire was shocked. The question cut through the air like a sharp blade. William Carter, 45, one of the richest men in the country, felt his legs buckle before this 10-year-old child holding a tray of homemade sweets. There was something in her eyes that disturbed him deeply. It wasn't innocence, but a cold determination that seemed too strange for someone so young. Ava Thompson shouldn't have been there. She definitely shouldn't have been standing in the entrance hall of a mansion that cost more than her entire neighborhood would see in a decade. But when the gate opened and that man in the impeccable suit agreed to buy her sweets, she followed the instinct that had been growing for weeks. Her mother, Grace, was dying. Advanced cancer, no money for treatment, living in a shack that barely kept out the rain. Ava had been selling sweets on the streets since she was 8, but lately there had been something different in her steps. Something calculated. As if she were looking for clues rather than just customers. And now, standing before that gold-framed photo, all the pieces began to fall into place. The photo showed a radiant young black woman in a white dress, smiling next to the same man who now stared at her in terror. The same woman Ava knew as Grace Thompson, but who in this photo seemed to belong to a completely different world, a world of wealth and privilege. Where did you get this photo?" William stammered, his hands shaking visibly. Ava tilted her head slightly, studying his every reaction with unsettling precision. "That's my mother. Grace Thompson. Do you know her?" Her voice was calm, controlled, as if she already knew the answer but wanted to see how far the lie would go. The silence that followed was deafening. William looked at the girl, then at the photo, then back at Ava. The shape of her eyes, the line of her jaw, even that determined expression, it was impossible to deny the resemblance. "Your mother," he whispered, "she told me she died. Over 10 years ago. There was an accident, a funeral." "Funny," Ava replied, her voice carrying a sarcasm that definitely didn't match her age. "Because she's very much alive. Well, technically alive. Cancer is taking care of that." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "But I'm sure someone as wealthy as you already knew that, didn't you?" William felt as if the ground was disappearing beneath his feet. All these years, he had mourned Grace. He had built a mausoleum in her memory. He had refused any serious relationship because nothing compared to the love he had lost. But Ava didn't seem surprised or moved. She seemed prepared. As if she already knew exactly what she would find here. As if this conversation was part of a much bigger plan. "How old are you?" William asked, his voice almost inaudible. 10. "I'll be 11 next month." Ava smiled, but it wasn't a childish smile. It was the smile of someone who had just confirmed a very important suspicion. Funny how the dates match up, don't you think? William felt the world spin. If Grace was alive, if this girl was his daughter, it meant that someone had lied to him. Someone had orchestrated all of this. And from the signs Ava was already showing, she knew it too. The question hammering in his mind was simple and terrifying. What else did this child know that he didn't? And why had she come here alone, with this strange confidence, as if she already knew exactly how this conversation would end? If this story of revenge and justice touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because what Ava would discover next about the man who ruined her family would prove that sometimes, the truth is much more shocking than any lie. William couldn't stop shaking. His hands were sweating as he watched Ava walk through the mansion with unsettling confidence, touching expensive objects as if she already knew exactly where everything was. It wasn't the behavior of a child impressed by wealth, it was the behavior of someone cataloging evidence. "Do you want to see more photos?" he asked, his voice still unsteady. Ava stopped in front of a bookcase filled with trophies and business awards. "Actually, I wanted to see the papers." "What papers?" "The ones from the accident." Ava turned, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that sent a chill down William's spine. "You said my mother died in an accident. There must be documents, police reports, death certificates. Those things don't just disappear, do they?" The question cut deep. William realized, for the first time in over a decade, that he had never seen any official documents about Grace's death. His mother, Victoria Carter, had taken care of everything. "Your mother was too upset to deal with the details," she had said. "Let me take care of everything." My mother took care of all the funeral arrangements," William replied, feeling strangely defensive in front of a child. How convenient. Ava smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Is your mother still alive? No, she died 3 years ago. Oh. Ava nodded slowly. Then we can't ask her about the details, can we? What a pity. The sarcasm in her voice was impossible to ignore. William felt as if he were being interrogated by a seasoned detective, not a 10-year-old girl who should be in school. Listen, Ava, I know this must be confusing for you. Confusing? Ava interrupted. Mr. Carter, I've been selling candy on the street for 2 years to buy medicine for my mother who is dying of cancer. Confusing would be if I didn't know exactly why I'm here. William felt the air rush out of his lungs. You planned this? Coming here. It wasn't hard to find your address. You're kind of famous, you know. Ava pulled a broken phone with a cracked screen from her pocket. Public internet at the library. 3 months of research. Carter Enterprises, founded in 1995, estimated value $2.8 billion. Son of Victoria Carter, heir to one of the richest families in the state. The naturalness with which she recited this information made William feel naked, exposed. Why did you research me? Because my mother talks in her sleep. Ava put the phone away. When the pain gets too strong, she takes medicine that makes her delirious. And when she raves, she calls your name. William, forgive me. For weeks, I heard this. So I started asking questions. William swallowed hard. What else did she say? That someone threatened her. That they said something bad would happen to me if she didn't disappear. Ava watched his reaction carefully. That she ran away pregnant and poor because someone very powerful wanted you to believe she was dead. William's world fell apart for the second time that day. Someone had lied to him. Someone had separated him from Grace and his daughter. Someone had condemned Grace to a life of poverty while he mourned a death that never happened. Who? He whispered. I was hoping you would tell me. Ava moved closer. Because I'm sure you already know. Deep down, you always knew something wasn't right, didn't you? Otherwise, you wouldn't be reacting like this. William closed his eyes. Repressed memories began to surface. Victoria controlling every detail of the funeral. Her nervousness when William asked to see the body. How quickly she had sold the house where Grace lived. Her insistence that he not look for her family. My mother, he whispered, the realization hitting him like a blow. It was my mother. Bingo. Ava clapped her hands slowly. The most powerful woman in the state decides that a poor girl isn't good enough for her millionaire son. Grace mysteriously disappears. You never question it because you're too devastated. Everyone wins, except Grace and the child she was carrying. How can you be so sure? Because last night, when my mother had another episode of delirium, she mentioned a name I didn't know. Ava stared at him directly. Montgomery and Associates. A very expensive law firm your mother used to handle delicate matters. William felt his legs buckle. Montgomery and Associates was indeed the firm his mother used for confidential matters. Did you contact them? A 10-year-old calling a law firm asking about blackmail from 2 decades ago? Ava laughed. They'd probably tell me to go back to school. But a billionaire heir questioning his late mother's suspicious activities? That would be a very different conversation, don't you think? The coldness with which she calculated every move was frightening. William realized he had completely underestimated this child. She hadn't shown up at his door by chance or innocence. She had come with a plan. What do you want from me, Ava? Justice. The word left her lips with a determination that made William take a step back. My mother is dying because we couldn't afford proper treatment. I've been working on the streets since I was 8 because someone stole from our family. And you've lived 11 years of unnecessary grief because someone lied to you. William looked at the girl in front of him, his daughter, and for the first time in decades, he felt something other than sadness or nostalgia. He felt anger. Pure, justified anger toward whoever had orchestrated this cruelty. What if I get this information from the lawyers? He asked, his voice gaining a firmness he hadn't felt in years. Ava smiled, and this time it was a genuine smile. Then we'll find out together exactly how many laws your mother broke to separate us. And then we'll let everyone know what the Carter family is capable of doing to innocent people. The fire in her eyes was unmistakable. William realized that his daughter had inherited more than just his eyes. She had inherited his determination, his intelligence, and apparently, his ability to plan revenge with surgical precision. But what neither William nor Ava could have imagined was that, at that very moment, someone was watching the mansion from afar, someone who had spent the last 3 years ensuring that certain secrets remained buried forever. And now, seeing that child in William's house, that person knew that the past had finally come back to claim its price. The next morning, William sat in his private office, surrounded by stacks of documents he hadn't touched in years. Ava had spent the night at the mansion, sleeping in a real bed for the first time in her life, but woke up at 5 in the morning, ready to work. "I found something interesting," she said, coming in with a cup of coffee she had made herself. The ease with which she moved around the house was unsettling, as if she had always belonged there. William looked up from his papers. "What did you find?" "Your mother didn't die of natural causes." Ava set the cup on the table and pulled out her broken phone. "I spent the night researching. Victoria Carter died in a car accident 3 years ago. Alone. At night. On a road she never used." William's blood ran cold. "How do you know that?" "Traffic reports are public. And there's more. She was coming back from a meeting with someone from Montgomery and Associates. The same night she died." Ava showed him the cracked screen of her phone. "Interesting coincidence, don't you think?" William felt as if the ground was moving beneath his feet again. "Are you suggesting that?" "I'm suggesting that maybe your mother wasn't the only person involved in this story. And that maybe someone decided she knew too much." At that moment, William's phone rang. It was Dr. Richard Montgomery, senior partner at the firm his mother always used. William had never spoken to him directly before. "Mr. Carter? I'd like to schedule an urgent meeting. There are some matters related to your late mother's business that we need to discuss." William looked at Ava, who made a silent gesture to put it on speakerphone. "Of course, Dr. Montgomery. What kind of matters?" "I'd rather not discuss it over the phone. Let's just say that certain situations from the past may be creating complications in the present. Could you come in this afternoon?" When William hung up, Ava was smiling. It wasn't a childish smile, it was the smile of someone who had just confirmed a theory. "They're nervous," she said. "Why would a law firm suddenly call after 3 years of silence? Unless someone told them about our conversation yesterday." "That's impossible. No one else was here." "No one you saw." Ava walked to the window and pointed to a dark car parked across the street. "That car was there last night when I arrived. It's still there now. And I'm sure it doesn't belong to your neighbor." William felt a chill. Someone really was watching his house. "What do we do now?" "We go to that meeting. But not alone." Ava pulled a crumpled business card from her pocket. "While you were sleeping, I made some calls. Do you know Samantha Torres?" William recognized the name immediately. Samantha Torres was an investigative journalist famous for exposing corporate and political corruption. She had taken down at least 2 senators and a dozen CEOs in the last 5 years. How does a 10-year-old girl get Samantha Torres' personal number? The public library has computers, remember? And sometimes when you tell the right story to the right people, they get interested. Ava put the card away. "She wants to meet you this morning. It seems she's been investigating some of the Carter family's shady dealings for a while." William was silent for a moment, processing his daughter's frightening efficiency. In less than 24 hours, she had turned his personal grief into a coordinated investigation. "Are you sure this is safe? If these people really killed my mother, then they won't stop there." Ava interrupted him. "My mother is dying, remember? We don't have time to be careful. We have time to be smart." 2 hours later, William was sitting in an inconspicuous cafe in the city center, watching Samantha Torres review a folder full of documents. The journalist, a 40-year-old woman with sharp eyes and gray hair, showed no surprise at anything she heard. "Your account confirms some suspicions I've been developing for years," she said, closing the folder. "Victoria Carter wasn't just rich and controlling. She was involved in a network of blackmail and manipulation that extended far beyond the family business." "What kind of network?" "Bought judges, politicians in their pocket, businessmen silenced. Your mother didn't just separate you from Grace, she destroyed dozens of families to protect the interests of the elite. Samantha looked directly at William. And Montgomery and Associates were the legal architects of it all. William felt nauseous. How many families? At least 15 documented cases in the last 20 years. Grace was just one of them. Samantha opened the folder again and showed him photos, fake death certificates, fraudulent contracts. Your daughter didn't just bring her personal story. She brought the key that could bring down a decades-long conspiracy. When William returned home, he found Ava in the library, studying city maps and handwritten notes scattered across the table. "How did it go?" she asked without looking up. "Worse than we imagined. And better, too." William sat down beside her. "Your mother wasn't the only victim. And now we have an investigative journalist on our side." "Great. Because we'll need her." Ava finally looked up at him, her eyes shining with a determination that reminded William painfully of Grace. "I called Montgomery and Associates an hour ago. I pretended to be a secretary from another office and got some interesting information." "What information?" "They're planning an emergency meeting tomorrow night. All the partners, plus a few special clients. It seems our little investigation has made them very nervous." Ava smiled. "And nervous people make mistakes." William looked at the maps spread out on the table, the routes marked, the times noted. His 10-year-old daughter had turned the library of his mansion into a command center. "What are you planning, Ava?" "Justice, Dad. Real, definitive justice." She used the word dad for the first time, and William felt something break and rebuild simultaneously in his chest. Because if they think a kid from the suburbs and a traumatized billionaire are an easy threat to eliminate, they're about to find out just how wrong they can be. That night, as William tried to sleep, a single question hammered at his mind. How had a 10-year-old girl managed to orchestrate an investigation that neither he nor an experienced journalist had thought of? And what else was she planning that she hadn't shared with him yet? Outside, the dark car remained in the same position, but now there were two more. And this time, it was the watchers themselves who were being watched, by cameras discreetly installed by someone who had clearly learned that sometimes the best defense is knowing exactly who is trying to attack you. The emergency meeting at Montgomery and Associates was scheduled for 8 o'clock that evening. But at 7:45, when the partners entered the conference room, they found something they definitely hadn't expected. Ava Thompson sitting at the head of the table, with an open laptop and a stack of organized documents in front of her. "Good evening, gentlemen," she said with unsettling calm. "I hope you don't mind the change of venue. I thought it would be more appropriate to meet here." Dr. Richard Montgomery stopped in the doorway, his face turning pale. "How did you get in here? Where are the security guards?" "Your security guards are a little busy explaining to the police why they were rushing classified documents out of the building." Ava turned the laptop around, showing a real-time video feed of the building's entrance. Funny how nervous people always make the wrong choices when the pressure's on. William entered right behind the lawyers, accompanied by Samantha Torres and two federal agents. The expression on his face was a mixture of paternal pride and utter amazement. "Gentlemen," Samantha announced, "you are officially under federal investigation for conspiracy, blackmail, document forgery, and murder." "This is ridiculous." Dr. Montgomery tried to maintain his composure. "You can't prove anything." Ava smiled. "Can I? Interesting. Because in the last 72 hours, your own phones have recorded some very revealing conversations." She pressed a key on her laptop. Montgomery's voice echoed through the room. "We need to get rid of the girl before she finds more evidence. If she finds out about the other cases. If she finds out what we did to Carter's mother." "And there's more," Ava continued, switching to another file. "Last night's conversation, Dr. Harrison. Victoria Carter was becoming unstable. She threatened to reveal everything if we didn't stop the blackmail. We had no choice but to solve the problem permanently." The silence in the room was absolute. Dr. Harrison loosened his tie, sweat dripping from his forehead. "These recordings are illegal. They can't be used." "Actually, they can." Ava pulled out a folder. Article 18 of the Federal Code, Section 2511. Recordings made on private property when there is reasonable suspicion of criminal activity are admissible in court, especially when authorized by a court order. She showed the official document. Obtained 3 days ago, based on preliminary evidence I gave to the FBI. William looked at his daughter with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. How did you get a court order at age 10? Technically, Samantha got it. I just provided the evidence. Ava opened another file, including these bank transfers showing regular payments from Montgomery and Associates to Judge Crawford, the same judge who denied all of Grace's appeals when she tried to contact you. Dr. Montgomery tried to stand up, but one of the federal agents sat him back down. You don't understand. The Carter family. Victoria paid very well to keep certain people away from her son. It was just business. Business. William's voice trembled with controlled rage. You broke up a family, condemned a woman and a child to poverty, and killed my mother when she tried to confess. And you call that business? And speaking of business, Ava continued relentlessly, I found out you weren't the only ones. 15 families destroyed in the last 20 years. Always the same pattern. Rich person wants to get rid of a social problem. You fake deaths, bribe officials, threaten victims. She turned the laptop to show a detailed spreadsheet. Estimated total profit, $847 million over 2 decades. Divided between this office, corrupt judges, and bought politicians. Dr. Harrison tried one last card. Even if that's true, the girl is a minor. Her testimony is worthless. Who said it's her testimony? Samantha interrupted, smiling. Ava may be a minor, but she's also William Carter's daughter. And William Carter, as a direct victim of this conspiracy, has every legal right to sue for emotional distress, parental kidnapping, and destruction of family. Furthermore, Ava continued, I have already contacted the other 14 victim families. They have all agreed to participate in a class action lawsuit. Damages are estimated at $2.3 billion. The lawyers' faces were now gray. All arrogance had evaporated, replaced by pure panic. And there's one more thing, William said, his voice gaining strength. Carter Enterprises has canceled all contracts with any company that uses Montgomery and Associate services. I have communicated this to other CEOs in the region. Word travels fast in the business world. Ava closed her laptop with a satisfying click. Oh, and one last surprise. This meeting is being broadcast live on Carter Enterprises' social media channels. 2 million views so far. Dr. Montgomery looked around the room like a cornered animal. You've destroyed our lives. No, Ava replied calmly. You destroyed your own lives the moment you decided that power and money were worth more than families and human lives. We just documented the process. As federal agents led the handcuffed lawyers out of the room, William approached Ava. How did a 10-year-old girl orchestrate all this? Ava smiled for the first time without sarcasm. You forgot one important thing, Dad. I spent 10 years watching powerful people destroy lives through lies and manipulation. I just applied the same tactics, but this time in the name of justice. But as they celebrated their victory, none of them noticed the man in the dark suit watching from the building across the street, speaking quietly into his phone. The plan has failed. Operation Montgomery has been compromised. Activate the emergency protocol. We have other families to protect. The true extent of the conspiracy was only beginning to unfold, and some very powerful people were not willing to let a 10-year-old child destroy decades of business without fighting back. 6 months later, the living room of the Carter mansion had been completely transformed. Grace, now in full remission from cancer thanks to the best medical treatment available, was reading quietly in her favorite armchair. Her cheeks had regained their color, and her eyes sparkled with the serenity of someone who was finally safe. Ava, now 11, was organizing stacks of letters on the coffee table, messages of support from across the country, offers of sponsorship for her studies, and invitations to speak about social justice. Her story had inspired an entire generation of children not to accept injustice silently. Another university wanting to give you a full scholarship, Grace commented, opening a gold envelope. Harvard, this time. William entered the room with a genuine smile, holding a tablet. Carter Enterprises stock has hit an all-time high. Apparently, our reputation for integrity is attracting investors from all over the world. The live broadcast of the Montgomery and Associates exhibition had gone viral, with over 50 million views. The public not only supported the quest for justice, but turned William and Ava into symbols of how to tackle corruption with intelligence. Dr. Montgomery and his partners had been sentenced to 25 years in prison. Their assets were confiscated to compensate the victimized families. The office was permanently closed, and several corrupt judges and politicians were also facing prosecution. What about the man who was watching us? Ava asked. Arrested yesterday, William replied. He was the last pawn in a much larger network that the FBI is dismantling. It seems that our little operation has opened a Pandora's box that will clean up decades of corruption. Ava smiled, but it wasn't her calculating smile from before. It was the genuine smile of a child who could finally be a child, knowing that her family was safe and together. You know what impresses me the most? Grace said, looking at her daughter. You could have chosen to just quietly reunite us. But you decided that other families deserved justice too. Injustice is like cancer, Ava replied with a wisdom that was impressive coming from someone so young. If you don't treat it completely, it comes back stronger. William sat down next to the two most important women in his life. So now what? What's our favorite strategist's next plan? Ava laughed. How about just being a normal family for a while? Maybe learn how to play video games instead of planning federal investigations. The three laughed together, a sound that echoed through the mansion that had once been cold and silent. Outside, the sun shone brightly on the garden where Grace and William had reunited, promising better days for a family that had learned that the truth, however painful, is always worth discovering. Ava's story proved that no matter your age or background, when you combine intelligence, courage, and an unwavering sense of justice, you can bring down empires built on lies. The best revenge is not just defeating your enemies, but building something so beautiful and true that it makes it impossible to return to the shadows of the past. If this story of a girl who turned pain into power has inspired you, subscribe to the channel for more real stories of people who have proven that justice, when applied with intelligence, always finds a way to prevail.